The quiet of deep space surrounded the Earth exploration vessel, Prometheus, as it drifted through the outer reaches of explored territory. Commander Elena Reyes sat in her command chair, eyes fixed on the holographic star chart hovering before her. This region was largely unexplored, perfect for their mapping mission but also unpredictable. "Commander, I'm picking up something unusual," said Lieutenant Park, his fingers dancing across the sensor controls. "An artificial signal, very weak." Elena straightened. "Source?" "Unknown. Not matching any Earth or Allied signatures." Park looked up with concern. "It's repeating, could be a distress call." "Put it through," Elena ordered. A series of broken pulses filled the bridge, rhythmic yet alien. The universal translator struggled, offering only fragments. "Help, attacked, survivors." "Origin point?" Elena asked. "Sector 12 Gamma, approximately 2 light hours from our position." Elena tapped her command console. "Helm, set course. Medical and security teams on standby." The Prometheus accelerated smoothly, its advanced engines humming. Elena called her senior staff to the briefing room. "We don't know what we're dealing with," she told them. "This could be our first independent contact with a new species, or it could be a trap." Chief Engineer Dae Sung looked concerned. "The signal pattern suggests severe power fluctuations. Whatever ship sent it is in trouble." 6 hours later, they arrived at the source. Floating in the void was a vessel unlike any in human records. Its design was organic, almost shell-like, with sections clearly damaged by weapons fire. "Life signs?" Elena asked. "Confirmed. Multiple readings, but they're weak," replied Dr. Yuna, the ship's medical officer. "Atmosphere appears oxygen-nitrogen based, similar enough to ours." "Open a channel," Elena ordered. Universal greeting protocols. After 3 attempts, their screens flickered to life. The alien face that appeared had blue-gray skin, large compound eyes, and mandibles that clicked. Nervously, behind it smoke drifted through a damaged command center. "I am Commander Elena Reyes of Earth," she said clearly. "We received your distress signal." The alien seemed to study her before responding in a halting voice now processed through the translator. "I am Captain Tae-ho of the Zarathi refugee transport Endless Horizon. We did not expect anyone to answer." "What happened to your ship?" Elena asked. "Hegemony patrol vessels attacked without warning," Tae-ho replied, mandibles twitching. "We are civilian refugees. Our colony was purged." Elena's humanitarian instincts flared. "We can offer medical assistance and repairs." "Why?" The alien's eyes narrowed. "The Kantari ignored our calls. The Phalasians threatened to fire upon us if we approached. Why would humans help?" "Because you need it," Elena said simply. "How many survivors?" 283. "Many injured. Our life support fails." Elena turned to her officers. "Prepare emergency teams. Doctor, coordinate with xenobiology." Security Chief Han stepped forward. "Commander, regulations state we should consult Earth Command before first contact procedures." "There's no time," Elena replied. "Besides, we're not making first contact. We're rendering aid to survivors." When the teams boarded the alien vessel, they found conditions worse than expected. The Zarathi ship carried families, children, elders, scholars. Many were injured from the attack or suffering from radiation exposure. Dr. Yuna worked quickly, adapting human medical protocols to alien physiology. "Their cellular structure is fascinating," she reported. "They heal differently than us, but basic treatments are compatible." While the medical teams worked, Engineer Dae Sung assessed the damage. "Their drive core is completely shot. Life support can be repaired, but they'll never make it to another system." Elena faced a difficult choice. Earth's policy on refugee assistance was clear, but it had never been applied to an unknown alien species. Helping them meant potentially drawing unwanted attention from this hegemony the Zarathi feared. She found Captain Tae-ho in what appeared to be a nursery chamber, watching human medics treat young Zarathi. "Why does the hegemony hunt your people?" Elena asked quietly. Tae-ho's voice dropped. "We carry a genetic marker they consider impure. For generations we hid, but now their sensors can detect it. They call it cleansing. His compound eyes met hers. They control most of this galaxy. Defying them brings consequences. Elena thought of humanity's bloody history, of genocides justified by genetic differences or ancient hatreds. We'll tow your ship to our nearest outpost. We can discuss long-term solutions there. The hegemony will not approve. They will pressure Earth to surrender us. Elena stood firm. Then they'll learn something important about humans. We make our own decisions about right and wrong. As the Prometheus established tow lines to the damaged Zorathi vessel, Elena sent a message to Earth Command. She knew she might face consequences for this decision, but watching the grateful Zorathi families, she couldn't find any regret. Humanity had reached the stars, wondering if they would find wisdom among ancient, alien civilizations. Instead, they found that the moral courage to help those in need might be the rarest quality in the galaxy. The Prometheus approached Earth orbit, its engines powering down as the blue-green planet filled the view screen. Commander Elena Reyes stood with perfect posture despite her exhaustion. Behind her ship, the damaged Zorathi vessel followed in tow, its organic hull still bearing the scars of hegemony weapons. Incoming transmission from Earth Command, announced Communications Officer Minho, Admiral Harding. Elena nodded and the stern face of Admiral Harding appeared on screen. His expression was already thunderous. Commander Reyes, you have directly violated first contact protocols, he said without greeting. Bringing an unknown alien vessel into Earth space without clearance is grounds for court-martial. With respect, Admiral, this was an emergency rescue operation, Elena replied. The Zorathi are refugees fleeing genocide. They had children aboard. That's not your determination to make. Harding's face reddened. We've received 17 diplomatic protests in the last 6 hours. Species we've had peaceful relations with for years are threatening to cut ties if we harbor these. He checked his notes. Zorathi. They need medical attention and asylum, Elena insisted. Their ship can't travel any farther. They're quarantined in high orbit until further notice. Your crew is confined to Earth Orbital Station for debriefing. Harding out. The screen went dark. Elena turned to her officers. Well, that went about as expected. 3 days later, Elena sat in a sterile conference room at Earth Central Command. Across from her sat Admiral Harding and representatives from various Earth governments. The mood was tense. The Kantari ambassador claims the Zorathi carry a contagious pathogen, said the Chinese representative. Is this true? Before Elena could answer, the door opened. A small woman in a lab coat entered carrying a data tablet. Dr. Ji Wu, said Harding. Your findings? Dr. Ji Wu placed her tablet on the table. I've completed my analysis of the Zorathi. Physiology. They carry no pathogen dangerous to any known species. Then why? Began Elena. However, Ji Wu continued, they do carry a unique genetic marker in their DNA. It's harmless but extremely rare. And this matters why? Asked the representative from the African Union. Ji Wu displayed a holographic model of a DNA strand. Because according to the texts I've obtained from the Hegemony archives, this specific genetic sequence is considered the mark of the fallen in their dominant religion. The Hegemony believes carriers must be cleansed from the galaxy. Silence fell over the room. Let me understand, Elena said slowly. The most powerful coalition in our region of space is hunting the Zorathi because of a genetic trait tied to religious superstition? Precisely, Ji Wu nodded. It's genocide cloaked in quarantine language. Admiral Harding rubbed his temples. The Hegemony controls access to 15 essential rare minerals and the major trade routes. They've made it clear that helping the Zorathi would be seen as an act against Hegemony interests. So we're considering handing over refugees to their executioners for economic reasons? Elena asked, her voice rising. What happened to Earth's Sentient Rights Accord? The European representative leaned forward. It's not that simple, Commander. The Zorathi aren't signatories to the Accord. because they were never given the chance. Elena stood up. I've spent days with these people. They're scholars, artists, farmers. Their children draw pictures like our children. They're afraid like we would be afraid. The room's screens suddenly lit up with incoming transmission notices. More protests. Harding sighed. The Falasians are now threatening to cancel their atmospheric technology exchange if we don't turn the Zarathi away. A junior officer entered and whispered something to Harding. His face grew even grimmer. Our long-range probes have detected hegemony warships changing course. They're heading toward the Sol system. The tension in the room thickened. Elena looked at each face, seeing the calculations behind their eyes, weighing lives against political reality. Show them, she said suddenly. Commander? Jiwoo looked confused. Show them the children's ward on the Zarathi ship. Jiwoo hesitated, then activated her tablet. The central hologram displayed the makeshift medical bay where young Zarathi were being treated by human doctors. One small Zarathi was drawing a picture of planets and stars while a human nurse watched. Captain Tejo told me something I can't forget, Elena said quietly. The Zarathi have visited 17 systems seeking help. Each time they were turned away out of fear of hegemony, reprisal. 17 times advanced civilizations chose political convenience over moral courage. She looked around the table. Is that who we want to be? Is that humanity's introduction to the galactic community? We hold these rights to be universal. Unless it's inconvenient. Admiral Harding studied the image of the Zarathi child. The full United Earth Council will need to vote on this. Until then, the Zarathi remain under our protection. As Elena left the meeting, Dr. Jiwoo caught up with her. You know the hegemony won't stop with diplomatic pressure. If we offer the Zarathi sanctuary, there will be consequences. Elena watched Earth turning peacefully below the station window. There are always consequences for doing the right thing. That's why it's called courage. The United Earth Council chamber hummed with urgent voices. 200 representatives from Earth's nations and colonies had gathered for an emergency session. Large screens displayed the Zarathi refugee ship in orbit, alongside approaching hegemony vessels still days away at sublight speed. Elena Reyes stood at the witness podium, her uniform pressed perfectly despite 3 days with little sleep. Captain Tejo stood beside her, his blue-gray skin looking pale under Earth lighting. The council will come to order, announced the Secretary General, a tall woman from Nigeria. We face an unprecedented decision that may define humanity's place among galactic civilizations. The European representative spoke first. The economic impact report is clear. The hegemony controls access to 15 rare minerals essential for our deep space program. Their trade embargo would set Earth back decades. At what cost do we measure progress? Countered the South American delegate. Our history is filled with regrets for times we chose convenience over compassion. Captain Tejo stepped forward. The translator device at his neck hummed. My people ask only for temporary sanctuary while we repair our vessel. We will continue to the outer systems afterward. That's not what the hegemony demands, said the Asian Alliance representative. Their ultimatum requires us to surrender your people for processing. They claim jurisdiction over your species. The chamber erupted in discussion. Elena watched the faces around her, some determined, others calculating, many conflicted. Dr. Jiwoo entered the chamber with new data. Council members, our probes have detected weapons fire in 3 separate systems within the past week. The energy signatures match hegemony warships targeting small vessels with Zarathi configurations. She displayed the evidence on the main screen. This isn't an isolated incident, it's a coordinated purge. How many Zarathi exist? Asked the oceanic delegate. Tejo's mandibles clicked softly before he answered. Our main world fell 2 planetary cycles ago. Perhaps 40,000 remain, spread across refugee ships. We have lost contact with many. A silence fell over the room as the scale of the unfolding tragedy became clear. The Secretary General called for a brief recess. Elena found herself in a side chamber with Admiral Harding and several key representatives. The Mars colony can't survive without hegemony metals for their atmospheric processors, said the colonial representative. We must consider all human lives at stake. Elena had stayed quiet following protocol. Now she spoke. Throughout human history, we've faced this same choice repeatedly. From those who hid families during Earth's darkest genocides, to the nations that turned refugees away. The names and places change, but the moral question remains the same. This isn't just about morality, Harding countered. It's about survival. Is it survival if we become something we despise to continue existing? Elena asked. Captain Tejo showed me their historical archives. The hegemony has done this before to other species with the same genetic marker. Each time surrounding civilizations looked away. Each time the circle of acceptable persecution widened. The Secretary General rejoined them. The hegemony ambassador has sent a final message. We have 12 Earth hours to surrender the Zorathi ship, or face consequences appropriate to those who harbor the fallen. When the council reconvened, the tension had shifted. The debate continued, but with greater urgency. The North American representative stood. My region proposes a compromise. We officially comply with hegemony demands while secretly relocating the Zorathi to our unmapped territories beyond the sea. Perseus Arm. Deception? Questioned the European delegate. The hegemony would eventually discover the truth, by which time the Zorathi would be established in a defendable position, replied the North American. We can claim ignorance of their final destination. The proposal gained traction, with modifications from each region. The final plan emerged. Operation Safe Harbor. Earth would establish a hidden sanctuary system for the Zorathi and any other refugees from hegemony persecution. After 36 hours of continuous session, the vote came. The Secretary General stood to announce the result. By a vote of 127 to 73, with 0 abstentions, the United Earth Council has decided to offer sanctuary to the Zorathi people and others facing persecution for their genetic heritage. She looked directly at Captain Tejo. We choose to help. Later, Elena found Tejo looking out at Earth from the station's observation deck. Your people took an enormous risk for strangers, he said. The hegemony will punish this decision. Elena nodded. Probably. But there are moments when doing what's right matters more than doing what's safe. My ancestors have a saying, the stars remember who stands when others kneel. I like that, Elena smiled. On Earth, we say, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Outside the window, shuttles began moving between the Zorathi ship and Earth's orbital docks. Operation Safe Harbor was underway. Within days, the refugees would begin their journey to a hidden star system, accompanied by human ships and volunteers. The hegemony warships were still coming, but for the first time in generations, the Zorathi people had hope, and humanity had made its stand. 6 months after Earth's decision, Elena sat in her new office at Luna Command Center. The wall screens displayed shipping lanes across the Sol system, with too many blinking red indicators showing canceled routes. She rubbed her tired eyes as Admiral Harding entered without knocking. The Procyon trading post just closed to Earth vessels, he said, dropping a data tablet on her desk. That makes 17 major spaceports now barring our ships. Elena nodded. This news was expected, but still painful. And the Mercantile Collective? They held a special vote yesterday. Under hegemony pressure, they've suspended Earth's membership for ethical violations of quarantine protocols. Harding's voice carried no satisfaction in being right. We've lost access to their technology exchange program. Outside the window, the blue-white sphere of Earth turned serenely, unaware of its growing isolation in galactic affairs. Operation Safe Harbor had successfully relocated the Zorathi refugees to a hidden system beyond standard trade routes, but the cost was mounting daily. Medical nanites are already being rationed in the outer colonies, Elena said. Without collective imports, we have maybe 8 months of supply. The Jakarta science team is working on alternatives, but results are preliminary. Harding sat down heavily. We knew this would happen, but we hoped for more support from the independent systems, Elena finished. The communication panel chimed. Captain Reyes, You're needed in Supply Chain Command. Priority Alpha. The Supply Chain Command Center was a hive of activity. Screens covered every wall, tracking resources across Earth's territories. Director Kim, a compact woman with streaks of gray in her black hair, met them at the door. The hegemony just announced a total embargo on fusion catalysts, she said, without preamble. Effective immediately. Elena felt her stomach tighten. Fusion catalysts were essential for Earth's energy grid and spacecraft. Without them, colonies on Mars and Europa would face life-threatening power shortages within months. Alternative sources? Harding asked. The Rigelians might sell us some through third parties, but at 20 times the normal price. Director Kim pointed to projection charts. Even then, we'd only meet about 30% of our needs. As they discussed emergency measures, Elena's personal communicator buzzed with a message from Dr. Ji-woo. Come to Lab 7. Breakthrough. Elena excused herself and hurried through the station corridors. She found Ji-woo working alongside a Zorathi scientist named Sun-mi. Both wore protective gear as they manipulated glowing materials in a containment field. What am I looking at? Elena asked. Ji-woo smiled. Hope. The Zorathi have been working with our materials science team. Show her, Sun-mi. The Zorathi scientist manipulated controls, and the material in the field transformed, its atomic structure shifting visibly on the monitor. We've created a synthetic catalyst, Sun-mi explained, her translator making her excitement clear. It's not as efficient as traditional hegemony catalysts, but it requires only elements found in Earth's solar system. How soon can we produce it at scale? 3 months for the first industrial batch, Ji-woo said. We've already sent the formulas to facilities in Seoul and Nairobi. For the first time in weeks, Elena felt a flicker of optimism. This pattern would repeat itself across Earth in the coming months. Crisis followed by innovation. When the IER hegemony blocked communication frequencies, Earth engineers developed new transmission methods. When alien pharmaceuticals became unavailable, biotech firms in Singapore and Rio created synthetic substitutes. 2 months later, Elena visited New Horizons, the primary settlement on Mars. Once a showcase of interspecies cooperation, the biodomes now operated with minimal power. Inside the main dome, hydroponics gardens had replaced luxury residential spaces. Colony leader Jun Seo greeted her at the airlock. Welcome to the resistance, he said with grim humor. We're growing about 60% of our food now. Not bad for a colony that imported everything 6 months ago. They walked through areas that had once housed alien diplomats and traders. Now they contained vertical farms and improvised manufacturing facilities. Children ran past them, laughing, as they played in the reduced gravity. The kids are adapting better than the adults, Jun Seo noted. They think it's an adventure. And the synthetic catalyst production? First batch comes online next week. We'll have enough to restore full power to the medical center and primary life support. He gestured to a facility where humans and Zorathi worked side by side. Having their scientist here has been a blessing. They think differently than we do. That evening, Elena joined a community meal in the central dome. Humans shared tables with the small Zorathi community that had chosen to help on Mars rather than join the main refugee settlement. A young Zorathi approached her shyly. Captain Reyes? My parent Tai-Ho sends greetings from New Haven. The child offered a small carved stone. This is from our home world, for Earth. Elena accepted the gift with formal gravity. Thank you. Please tell your parent that Earth stands by its promise. As she prepared to return to Luna, Elena looked back at the red planet. Mars glowed with only half its usual lights, conserving precious power. Yet in that dimness she saw something powerful. Resilience. The hegemony had expected Earth to break under pressure and surrender the Zorathi. Instead, humanity was adapting, finding strength in the very isolation meant to destroy them. 3 years passed since Earth chose to help the Zorathi. The initial crisis had settled into a new normal. Earth and its colonies had grown leaner but more self-sufficient. The predicted collapse never came. Admiral Elena Reyes, promoted after the first year of the crisis, looked out from her office window at the busy lunar shipyards. New vessels under construction bore designs unlike any before the embargo, incorporating innovations born from necessity. Her communication panel chimed with a priority alert. "Admiral, we're receiving an encrypted transmission from the Aldebaran system. They're requesting you personally." Elena frowned. Aldebaran was supposedly neutral territory, though its ruling species, the Palaxians, had officially cut ties with Earth under hegemony pressure, put it through secure channel. The screen lit up with the image of a Palaxian, her purple tentacles forming the subtle gesture that Elena recognized from diplomatic training as secret communion, a sign used only for matters of extreme sensitivity. "Admiral Reyes, I am Ambassador Neru of the Palaxian Unity," the alien said, her translator giving her voice a musical quality. "We must speak, but not through normal channels. Can you travel to these coordinates? Alone?" "The hegemony monitors all Earth-ship movements," Elena replied carefully. "Not if you use the route I am sending. Please, Admiral, there are many who wish to speak with you." 1 week later, Elena piloted a small research vessel through an uncharted route in the Aldebaran system. Her official mission log listed mineral surveys as her purpose. The path Ambassador Neru had provided avoided all standard monitoring stations. She arrived at a small moon, unremarkable except for its unusual electromagnetic field that would hide any ships in its shadow. As she approached, she detected 3 other vessels already there, none bearing official registry markings. Inside a shielded facility beneath the moon's surface, Elena found representatives from 7 different species waiting. Some she recognized immediately: the Palaxians, the blue crystalline Durendi, the 4-armed Mintak. Others were unfamiliar. Ambassador Neru stepped forward. "Thank you for coming, Admiral. We have watched Earth stand against the hegemony with great interest." "And only now decided to reach out?" Elena couldn't keep the edge from her voice. A Durendi chimed softly, its crystal body reflecting the light. "Fear is a powerful deterrent, Admiral. The Durendi Confederation has suffered under hegemony trade restrictions for a century because we once questioned their authority. The Mintak Assembly lost 3 colony worlds for harboring undesirables, added a 4-armed delegate. Until now we believed resistance was futile." "What changed?" Elena asked. "You did," said a new voice. Elena turned to see Captain Teho entering with Sunmi, the Zarathi scientist. Both looked healthier than when she had last seen them, their blue-gray skin vibrant. Teho continued. "Earth was supposed to crumble within a year. Instead, you adapted. You found new ways to survive. It gave others courage." The meeting continued for hours as each species shared their experiences with hegemony oppression. Some had endured it for centuries, paying tribute or following rules they knew were wrong, all to avoid the fate that had befallen the Zarathi and now threatened Earth. Sunmi unveiled a holographic display of the galaxy. The hegemony's power relies on controlling established trade routes and key resources. But our ancestors fled persecution for generations. In doing so, they discovered things the hegemony has suppressed. The hologram zoomed in on specific regions, revealing faint lines connecting distant systems. Natural wormhole networks, unstable but navigable with the right calculations. The hegemony either doesn't know they exist or pretends they don't, to maintain their control of movement between systems. "With these routes," Teho explained, "we can establish trade and communication the hegemony cannot monitor or control." Elena studied the map. "You're proposing an alternative network, a shadow economy." "More than that," said Ambassador Neru, "a new alliance, one based on mutual aid rather than dominance." "The hegemony believes their way is the only way," added the Durendi representative. "They cannot imagine cooperation without control." Over the next 3 days, representatives worked together to establish what would become known as the Sanctuary Accord. Each species offered what they could: the Palaxians their diplomatic channels, the Durendi their crystal technology, the Mintak their unmatched starship designs. The Zorathi contributed their wormhole navigation techniques and star charts of unexplored regions. Earth brought its newest innovations: synthetic catalysts, alternative communication methods, and agricultural adaptations that had helped human colonies survive the embargo. On the final day, they gathered to sign the agreement. Elena watched as representatives from 7 species pressed their marks or signatures to the document. When her turn came, she paused. This won't be easy. The hegemony still holds tremendous power. Tejo stood beside her. My people have a saying. The strongest current begins as a single drop of water choosing a new path. As Elena added her signature, she thought about the 3 years since the Prometheus had answered a faint distress call. How one act of compassion had led to this moment, the birth of a new force in the galaxy. Later, as her ship prepared to return to Earth, Elena stood with her old friend Ji-Woo, who had accompanied her as scientific advisor. Do you think we can really challenge the hegemony's domination? Ji-Woo asked. Elena watched as ships from 7 different worlds moved into formation around hers, ready to escort her to the wormhole entrance that would take her home. We already have, she replied. Not through weapons or wealth, but by showing there's another way to exist among the stars. As the small fleet accelerated toward the hidden wormhole, Elena thought of how humanity had been tested. They could have turned away from the Zorathi like every other species. Instead, they chose to help. And in doing so, they hadn't just saved one species, they had sparked hope across the galaxy.